Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another video of Be the Best DFS Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Bradford Best, and today is Wednesday, October 4th, 2017, and this will be my video for the upcoming Week 5 NFL slate. Quickly, I want to recap Week 4. One of my top stacks was the Houston Texans with Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins. That lineup was able to do well for me on both sites. I reached a season high in points, 153.22 on Fanduel, 154.22 on DraftKings. That was my season high on the main slate for this season. And if you make sure you're following the Instagram account at Be the Best DFS 17 or search the tag Be the Best DFS. I shared that lineup for the FanDuel lineup on my Instagram page. So if you use that, I know you cashed as well. But overall, week 4 was successful. I made a small profit, somewhere between $50 and $75, because I really didn't spend that much. But y'all know what it is. I'm counting the wins as blessings and just thankful for whenever I can win. Now, enough of week 4. Let's get started to talk about this week 5. I'm really excited about it. I think I have some strategies and plays that will allow me to be successful again on this week. So, as always, I start these videos off talking about my top stacks of the week, quarterback, wide receiver stacks. And this week, typically I normally pick, a stack that's kind of contrarian, low owned and things like that. But for this particular slate, the play that I like, it may be kind of chalky. And that's going to be the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers at 9,500 and Jordy Nelson at 8,600. Again, let me repeat. I don't know how sneaky, this kind of play is, because I think a lot of people probably going to be on Aaron Rodgers. But when I look at the other options to consider, I don't really see anyone else that I have a lot of confidence in. So for this particular slate, I'm going to pay up for quarterback, and I like Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot to like about this game. For one, it's the highest scoring total on the slate at 52 points, if I'm not mistaken. It's supposed to be competitive. The point spread is like 2 points, I believe, the last time I checked. And then, just Aaron Rodgers, his skill set with the banged up Ty Montgomery and, inexperienced running backs behind Montgomery. They probably may lean on their pass game a little more. And we saw what, the Rams did to the Dallas Cowboys in week 4. They scored 30-plus points on them. So if Jared Goff and the Rams are able to put up that type of point output on the Dallas Cowboys, I feel very, very confident that Aaron Rodgers can do the same thing. The last 2 games on FanDuel, Aaron Rodgers has had 23.1 fantasy points and 25.8 fantasy points. If you look at the quarterbacks on the slate, he's averaging the 3rd most fantasy points per game on FanDuel, behind Alex Smith and Russell Wilson. And, again, let me reiterate, with this being the highest scoring game on the slate, I don't feel nervous about picking Aaron Rodgers. A lot of weeks, I pick just like, kind of contrarian plays that may be low on. But Aaron Rodgers, he may be chalk, but this week I don't have any interest in fading the chalk. And as far as, who I'm stacking them up with, I feel that just like how I like Deshaun Watson and Hopkins on last week, I feel that it's the best strategy to use is to stack them up with his top receiving option, which is Jordy Nelson. Let me look at Nelson real quick. Nelson, a positive thing about him, he's first in the NFL in receiving touchdowns at the wide receiver position. Got 5 receiving touchdowns on the season. His targets aren't that high, but getting in the end zone, that's good for, fantasy value. So you got to love Jordy Nelson. Last 2 games, at least 20 fantasy points in each game. And if the game is able to stay close like it's projected to be, he should score, a lot of points. So Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, that's my top stack for week 5. Okay. Now normally I have like, 3 or 4 stacks that I like. But I think this week, on Daily Fantasy on both sites, I'm only going to use one lineup. I'm going to use one lineup with this Green Bay stack, and I'm going to put it in GPPs and tournaments as well as in cash games. So to be quiet, I'm not going to just force it and just say I like, other quarterbacks just to come up with 3 different stacks. But I guess if I had to pick some other quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, he's in play. That's a good game. Probably Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin as long as he's healthy. The Rams versus Seahawks, I believe that's the second highest total on the slate. On the Rams side, maybe Jared Goff and Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, he gets very, very involved in the passing game. So if I use Goff, I probably would stack him up with Gurley. That's another possible stack. Let me look through here. And maybe Watson and Hopkins again, maybe. But Kansas City have a very, very good defense. I just say all this to say that I only like one stack, and that's Green Bay. I'm likely only going to use one lineup, and that's going to be based around Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson. So let me just look through the quarterback pool real quick. I mentioned Russell Wilson. I know Cam Newton had a good game last week, but the Patriots, they just have a bad defense. I still don't trust Cam, but, some people may, chase that game that he had on last week. Deshaun Watson, I loved him last week. I have respect for Kansas City defense, so I'm really not interested in him this week. And I mentioned Jared Goff. A high total game. He's been playing good this year. And I guess the last is 2 more plays if you want to stretch it out that could possibly be in play. Carson Palmer versus the Philadelphia Eagles, who's ranked 31st versus the pass. Carson Palmer, he can get on his hot streaks. And maybe Eli Manning. I mean, that's just if you're looking for multiple options to be different. But at quarterback for me, it's just Aaron Rodgers. That's what I'm doing this week. Let me move on to the next position, the running back position. This week, in my opinion, I feel that running back is a position that you need to pay up for. And my favorite running backs for week 5, they may be chalky as well, but that's Le'Veon Bell at 9,500, Ezekiel Elliott at 8,900, and Todd Gurley at 7,800. I think those 3 are the top running back players for week 5, and those are the 3 guys that you really, really want to have exposure to. And on the tournament GPP note tip, Jay Ajayi. I like him a lot too. For his price is going down 7,300, but he typically gets the volume. The only problem is the Dolphins, they haven't been really good in the pass game. So, Tennessee could load up the box and could stop Jay Ajayi. But the top 3, again, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, and Le'Veon Bell. Let me talk about each one of them really, really quick. With Ezekiel Elliott, for me, again, I think you just want to have a lot of exposure to this Green Bay at Dallas game. I think that's the best strategy to use. And if I'm going to have, Aaron Rodgers in my lineup, and if the game plays out how it's projected to be competitive, why not have Ezekiel Elliott? He gets the touches. He gets the volume. 20-plus rushing attempts in 3 out of 4 games this year. Last week, he got into the passing game with 4 receptions on 5 targets. He has a knack for the end zone, once they get in the red zone. So, if I'm gonna have Aaron Rodgers, I think the best thing to do is have exposure to Ezekiel Elliott as well in a cross game stack. He's a great player in a high scoring game. So I love Ezekiel Elliott on this week. I Who else? Oh, Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell. With him, he's expensive, so it'd be hard to fit him in. But it's a lot to like about him. For one, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 32nd versus the rush, according to the Fanduel rankings. And I think I looked up the stat. I think they're allowing, on average, 152 rushing yards per game. They're near the bottom in the league through the first quarter of the season as it relates to defending the run game. But with Ezekiel Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, the volume is so important. 35 rushes week 4, 35 rushes, 6 targets. That means he had like 41 opportunities to do something with the ball. And with that type of volume, I believe he's just an elite play for this week, considering the opponent and the matchup. Another thing, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Vegas odds had the Steelers projected as 8-point favorites, if I'm not mistaken, at home. So if they are winning the game, and they at home, they're gonna run the clock towards the latter parts of the game, just handing him off the ball. So it's mainly the volume. He gets a lot of usage in the opponent, and we saw what he did on last week. 144 rushing yards. Did he get any and 2 rushing touchdowns. So Ezekiel Elliott is an elite play, and especially if y'all choose the route to not play Aaron Rodgers, definitely use Le'Veon Bell. But I'm using him with Aaron Rodgers. Gotta love Le'Veon Bell this week. There's so much. It's not much more I could say. I just think he's a great play, and I'll definitely have exposure to him in my lineup. Now, that third guy I was talking about was Ty Gurley. He's been having a great season, a great bounce back season from what he did, having a down season on last year. But this is still the Seahawks. Surprisingly, the Seahawks are ranked 27th versus the rush. That's surprising to me. Ty Gurley, he's at a discounted, a lower price than Elliott and Bell, so that's good. His price. I think he's the same type of player as Le'Veon. Well, not Le'Veon. Well, yeah, with Bell, he gets a lot of volume. 23 rushing attempts last week, 8 targets. I think he's better for DraftKings, where you get a full point for PPR. But I would say pick Ty Gurley with caution, because it still is the Seahawks defense. That's basically what I can say. Ty Gurley, if you look at his numbers on the season and you look at where the Seahawks rank versus the rush, and then you look at his favorable price, it looks like a pretty good play. But it's still the Seahawks defense. So if you play Gurley, do it with caution. I think I like him a little more on DraftKings, but Gurley, he's definitely in consideration. And then I want to talk Joseph Ajayi. I really like Ajayi for tournaments and GPPs especially, and that's because the simple fact that he's had 2 bad games the last 2 weeks. 3.5 fantasy points in week 2 and 5.9 fantasy points in week 3. Absolutely horrible games, which will, for tournaments and GPPs, lower his ownership a lot. Nobody don't want to touch Ajayi. The Dolphins, they've only scored 6 points within the last couple weeks. The Dolphins look bad. Cutler looks bad. They just really look bad. But Ajayi is a good running back. And as long as he's healthy against this bad Tennessee Titans defense, I don't think Mariota's going to play. So if the Dolphins are playing with the lead, they're going to hand the ball off. If they're likely to be playing winning the game or whatever. Just from a game script standpoint, Ajayi can get those carries. And let's not forget, week 1 he had 28 carries. He did have a couple bad weeks, but he is someone that's going to be, that I would assume will have very, very low ownership, but he has the potential for massive point upside. So Jay Ajayi for tournaments and GPPs, I like him. I wouldn't play him in no cash games or nothing like that because it's risky. But for tournaments and GPPs, especially if you have multiple lineups, Jay Ajayi, I think, is an elite play. I really, really do like him for this week. Hey, I could be wrong, but I'm not on Kareem Hunt. I'm not going to play him this week. I'd rather spend the $500 more for Le'Veon Bell. Kareem Hunt is a great player, great rookie. Could have a great game this week, but Houston, they got some good players on that defensive line, and with the $500 difference in salary, I just rather just go with Le'Veon Bell. But I can't hate on you if you want to play Kareem Hunt, and I'm not interested in McCoy. Just not someone I'm interested in. Again, I'd rather use Elliott for $700 more than LaShawn McCoy. I think that's about it for me at running back as far as key plays that you want to pay up for. There probably is some possible value. Could be some value in Green Bay. Who else got some injuries? Oh, could be some value in San Francisco. I think Hyde might be questionable. So there could be some value plays, but just in general, Ezekiel Elliott for sure, Le'Veon Bell, and those two for sure. And for more favorable pricing, Todd Gurley and Jay Ajayi. Jay Ajayi, though, only for tournaments because it's risky. It's risky how bad the Dolphins been playing. But that guy, if he get his carries, he can have a massive fantasy performance. That's all my plays at the running back position. Let me talk about this wide receiver position real quick. Again, Jordan Nelson, gotta love him, stacking him up with Aaron Rodgers. 5 touchdowns on the season, high scoring game. If I use Rodgers, I think I would be kind of crazy not to use Nelson. So, I love Nelson. AJ Green is in play because as long as Tyler Eifert is out, AJ Green, it increases his upside in my opinion. So AJ Green is in play. Hopkins was great last week. I really think Kansas City defense might play good. So I'm kind of in the middle on Hopkins. In the middle about him. Who else? I'm not interested in Odell Beckham Jr. He could have a good game, but the Giants, they 0-4. They've been playing bad football, so I'm not interested in him. Let me mention something else. Again, like I said, I feel that the best strategy to use this week is to have exposure, however you can get it, to that Green Bay at Dallas game. So along with the top plays, Aaron Rodgers and Nelson on the Green Bay side, and Ezekiel Elliott, maybe Dak Prescott and Dez Bryant on the Cowboys side. I think you need to also make sure you have exposure to the value plays in this game, and there are some value plays in this game as far as low pricing. Bryce Butler, Cole Beasley, Terrence Williams, and who else? Geronimo Allison, Rodgers the tight end, Kendricks the tight end. Those cheap plays that's around 5,000 or less. So I feel that you have to just analyze all the different plays, include along with the plays that we all know about. And for value, I really like Terrence Williams. Between him and Bryce Butler and Cole Beasley, it seemed like Terrence Williams get get more snaps than those two guys. So for value in this game, I like Terrence Williams. If it's determined that Devontae Adams does not play, then I like Geronimo Allison for value. I think he's 4,600. But if Adams don't play, Allison automatically moves up to the third on the depth chart at wide receiver. So, but it's mainly the price that's intriguing about him. I think on Fanduel, Martellus Bennett, I believe he's 4,100. I mean DraftKings. On DraftKings, I think Martellus Bennett is 4,100. So I would say just look at all the possible options for value in this game as well as the star plays, because we can learn from what happened in that Texans game. Like if y'all follow my Instagram and Twitter and stuff, like last week for value for the Texans, I used Ryan Griffin and I used Ellington. But I knew Fuller was a possibility, but it was his first game, and I just did not know how many snaps he was going to get. But Fuller was 4,500 on FanDuel last week, and he was 3,800 on DraftKings. Elite value, 2 touchdowns, and probably was in a lot of winning lineups on last week. So make sure you look at those value plays at the wide receiver. My favorite is Terrence Williams from that game, and Allison if Devontae Adams doesn't play. I'm still on receiver. Let me mention this. Another value play that I love this week at the wide receiver position. I got him locked in my lineups. Jerron Brown for 4,500 of the Arizona Cardinals. Jerron Brown, not John, Jerron. But the thing about Jerron Brown, the matchup, he's going up against Philly, 31st versus the pass, according to the FanDuel rankings. But last week, 12 targets, 105 yards receiving, 14.5 fantasy points. If he was just able to get a touchdown with that, he would have had 20 fantasy points. But another key thing, John Brown, the fast wide receiver, he's been limited in practice. So, he's kind of injured a little bit. I forgot what kind of injury he's dealing with. We already know it's no David Johnson. So, and J.J. Nelson, I think he's been dealing with a quadriceps or hamstring injury. So, Jerron Brown, he should have the opportunities to make plays. But the main thing is his price. I'm not saying Jerron Brown is going to, light it up this week, have 150 yards receiving and all these touchdowns. But at his price, 4,500 on FanDuel, I think he may be 4,600 on DraftKings. I can't remember. But at his price and the opportunities that I believe he will have, he's probably my favorite value play for this Week 5 slate. So Jerron Brown, make sure y'all do y'all research on him. Look at the Arizona Cardinals injury reports and things like that. But he's definitely someone I have a lot of interest in. And I think that's all I'm going to say about the wide receiver. See, for me this week, I got to find a lot of value because I'm paying up for Aaron Rodgers and I'm paying up at running back. So that means I'm paying down at other positions. And so I'm looking for value at receiver position. But Jordy Nelson, he's a lock. Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson, that's a lock for me. Tight end position, I'm going to say that it's kind of like the same thing each week. You can pay up for Kelsey, Ertz. I'm going to add Charles Clay to the list and Jimmy Graham. You pay up for those guys. If not, you have to try to find some value at the tight end position or, pick a tight end that you can stack with whatever quarterback that you're using in your lineup. So I guess Martellus Bennett is in play at 5,300. He's definitely in play because, he's a tight end that can score touchdowns at times. He had a 3 touchdown game last season with the Patriots. So Bennett, he's in play. Tight end is just like, for me, is paying down. A value guy that I'm taking a chance on would probably be Ryan Griffin again of the Houston Texans. I think that the Kansas City Chiefs secondary is pretty good with the guy Peters at cornerback, as well as their defensive line. And I think Deshaun Watson going to have to get rid of the ball quick. And I think Griffin can have some more opportunities this week. He didn't do too much on last week, but he's still at a value price of $4,500. But there's probably a lot of other plays to play at value at tight end, but Griffin is one. And if you're not using Aaron Rodgers and if you're not paying up for running backs, then definitely Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz, Jimmy Graham, and Charles Clay, are probably like the top candidates to pay up for at the tight end position. All right, I think that's it for all the skill positions. Again, this video, quick recap. It's all about, the cheese heads for me. I know it can be chalky, but Aaron Rodgers and Jordy Nelson. I'm not going to be doing 3 lineups on each site this week. I'm using 1 lineup, and I'm just going to try to put all my faith in, 1 lineup on each site. So I definitely like, the Green Bay stack. I like that game in general. I like Cowboy players. I like Green Bay players. Running back, love Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, as well as Todd Gurley. And for tournaments in GPP, for someone at low ownership, definitely Jay Ajayi. Again, wide receiver, I'm looking more on the value tip this week. So Jerron Brown, Arizona Cardinals, 4,500, top value play. But if you, again, let me reiterate, if you have the salary, there's obviously, better receivers you can pay up for. AJ Green, y'all know the guys, Odell Beckham Jr., Antonio Brown. If you have the salary, of course, go ahead and do that. Tight end, just went over that. You got your top guys, Ertz, Kelce, Clay, Graham. But for me, it's probably going to be a position where I look for value. I don't really talk much about team defenses on this video, but just a thought. Maybe Baltimore going up against, the Raiders with no Derek Carr. Maybe Miami going up against the Titans with no Marcus Mariota possibly. And maybe Philadelphia, because Carson Palmer, if you get the rush on him, he cannot escape the pass rush. I believe he got sacked 6 times versus San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe Philadelphia. And y'all know the kicking game. Try to go with the high scoring teams, the teams projected with high totals, pick kickers from there. So, 2 off the top of my head, Green Bay and Dallas game, Dan Bailey and Mason Crosby. But, you got to just research the kicking game. But that's going to be the end of this week's video. As always, I would like to thank everyone who's taken the time out to view this video, to like this video, to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I really do appreciate all of your support. Make sure you follow me on all social media. Just search the tag, hashtag BeTheBestDFS. You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, of course this YouTube channel. The Instagram handle is at BeTheBestDFS17. I share my lineups on there. I shared my Deshaun Watson Fanduel lineup on there, which was very, very successful. So if you're not following, make sure you follow me on Instagram. And, I'm looking forward to this week 5. I'm going to spend a little more of my bankroll and hopefully, can be successful. Maybe take down a GPP, make a good profit. But it should be a good week. And I think that's about it. Thanks everybody again for tuning in with me. My motto is, as always, be sure to remember, have fun with this and count the wins as blessings. Losses teach lessons. Because when we are fortunate enough, to cash out for a little bit of money on here, it's just a blessing. You got to be thankful for it. So have fun this week, everyone. And as always, you know what I'm saying, try to be the best. And I'll catch y'all next week for my week 6 video. Yeah, week 6. I'll catch y'all next time. I'm out of here.